afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Sabrina Sense podcast, where I bring common sense to the world of work. Today, I'll be speaking with Loki. Loki is the author of the groundbreaking book, The True Self. Now, he's going to talk with us today about why he wrote this book and what it means to him. We'll be digging deep into what it is to be truly self-aware. So everybody give a warm and special welcome to Loki. Welcome, Loki. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Sabrina. It's a pleasure to be here today with you.
Absolutely. And I hear that your book has really been making an impact, and for good reason. It's really profound and very personal. So it holds a lot of insight, especially when we're talking about identity, purpose, the journey to authentic living. So for our viewers who might be just discovering your work, would you mind to give us just a brief overview of what has inspired you to write this book?
Yeah, wow, that's a good question. So it all started back in 2015. I was a bit lost, and I just wanted to know some answers. I lost my mother, and I was having a terrible relationship with my father, and also relationships. And I said, okay, I need to know why this is happening to me. So I started taking some notes, trying to understand some ancient wisdom, trying to understand the meaning why certain things happen to human beings. So it all started as my own personal journal. And 6 years later, around 2020, a friend at a dinner table looked at my book and said, when are you going to publish the book? And I was like, oh, what book? And oh, the book you're always writing. I'm like, no, 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 this is not a book, it's just my journal. But that's when the thought really came out, where I can actually transform all this writing, my personal notes, into a book, where it really helped me. And for me, 90, probably I would say 70% of the book I wrote is in day-to-day train journey, commuting to work, to and from work.
Wow.
So that's pretty much how it started. So it's a good 7 to 8 years of journey. And yeah, it's my self-discovery, my own journey of understanding, many things about life.
That's incredible, first of all. I know that there's a lot of writers who will personally relate to that story because that's how a lot of writers I'm learning have started out. They've kept their own journal and then they either create a book out of part of that journal or the entire journal. But we do see a lot of notes being made in those journals. Um, but aside from that, you talk about the importance of identifying and dismantling false selves. What are some of the biggest challenges that people face in that process that you define as a false self?
Okay, without going too deep into it,
Mhm.
um, all I have experienced is, depending on where we are born, depending on which culture we are born into, the family, whatever part of the world, without realizing we've been conditioned since we were kids. And we had no choice. That's way of living. And in that process, the biggest challenge has been the fear of judgment, the fear of rejection, the fear of the unknown. So that's where people hold on to whatever they've been conditioned. So the identity was given to them rather than discovering themselves. And I would say that's became the biggest challenge. And then in last 15 years, social media added another layer to that. So basically, that's what I think is the biggest challenge, for majority of the people.
Absolutely. That's something that I can personally relate to myself. It almost seems like we are constantly bombarded with messages about how we should be in life. And there's this incredibly horrible rule book for how all of us should be living, yet we don't know who the author is or where it really came from. It just is. But that's another subject that I could go on and on about. Um, how about a technique? Could you share a technique that our viewers can start using today?
I follow something really simple because I always try to share with my friends or whoever asks me about what are one or two simple things you do every day, which doesn't require to spend money and which is free. So for me, every day is about reflection, self-awareness, transformation starts with self-reflection. So the one thing I do is I never miss either a sunrise or a sunset. So a sunrise and a sunset for me represents sunrise is always a promise, sunset is always a peace. Why I'm sharing this? This is where our daily journal starts and ends. So all I do is I give time for myself to be in nature. We come from nature and we go back to the nature. So there is a special divine connection we have with the nature. That's why every time we're going through so much noise, always people say, go for a walk, go into the woods, or go for a beach walk.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the most simplest thing. Anytime there is too much noise, anytime there is so much weight on the shoulder, the first thing I do is I go into the nature, whether it's a sunrise, sunset, or walk like a trek or walk on the beach. Doesn't matter what it is. And then I sit down and I take notes why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. But the most important thing is I have to be honest with myself. A lot of people write journals, but if we're not honest with ourselves, the point of writing journal also becomes a bit of an escape.
Right. And that's fantastic advice because it is just super easy to get caught up in the day to day and all the busyness that is our lives. And so kind of checking in with yourself in that way really does make you more self-aware and it allows you to make some new discoveries about yourself even. And that's how we grow. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So was there a particular turning point or a moment of realization that propelled you forward?
Something divine. So that's just simply being mindful. So for me, that's really is the mindfulness, is being aware. And the self-compassion really is for me about loving yourself. When I say loving yourself, the true self is nothing but the child, the kid in you.
Yeah.
Everything what we're going through, what we're facing as an adult is nothing but whatever we wanted to do as a child or whatever we faced as a kid. So a lot of times we don't go back and give that love to that kid within us.
I
We
sure
never
don't.
go back and give that love the kid is seeking. And maybe the kid didn't get the love. Maybe the kid had some troubles. Maybe the kid has gone through a lot of things. So for me, what really transformed is I had a conversation with myself when I was a kid, when I was an adult. And then I said to the kid many times, hey, you know what? Thank you. Thank you for, this is self, compassion. So for me, again, this comes with the dialogue within. And mindfulness is about being aware of each moment. Self-compassion is in that awareness, making sure that the child in you is in peace, is happy, is joyful, is curious. And for me, 50% of the things I do is because of the kid in me. I'm curious.
That is, that's actually pretty beautifully said. And in hypnotherapy, I actually work with a lot of clients where I take them back to themselves as a child because that is a lot of the times where lack of self-confidence and limiting beliefs stem from is from those experiences that we had growing up. Um,
Absolutely.
Now, for a bit of a challenging question, in a world that often rewards external achievements and validation, how do we stay true to ourselves when it feels like we're constantly swimming against the current?
Wow. That's a really tough one. It's $1 million question everyone's trying to answer. um, what I would like to say here is always think about lotus. When everyone is thinking, oh, I have no choice, but I have to go through the noise.
Yeah.
And that's when I think about the lotus. So, lotus and the mud. So, the lotus seed is born in darkness. The lotus seed is in the mud, and it takes a bit of a time to come out. The seed opens up and it's pain. It's just the way we give birth in human terms.
Mm.
And then the seed has to open up in the darkness. It has to tear itself, and then the shoot comes up, and still it's in the dirty water in the mud, and then it comes up, and it comes up above the water, and then you have a lotus leaf, and then you have the lotus really coming between the leaf. And the first time it opens up only to the sunrise.
Wow.
And then what happens? The lotus never touches the mud. The lotus is always above the water.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
And the leaf as well, you put some water on the leaf, it never gets wet. It's like a lizard skin, it just lets it go.
Wow.
So that's why a lot of mindfulness, meditation, spirituality, everything goes back to the lotus, because lotus and mud represents our life. We're born in the noise.
Yeah.
We're born between good, bad, and ugly, but it is our role to come out of the mud, to come out of the noise, to come out of whatever we think is the distraction. So, how do you do that? Simple. It seems simple, but if you start practicing, it will become simple. This is something I practice. All I do is I make sure I give 1 hour to myself in the morning, and I give 1 hour to myself in the evening. No one can disturb me. This is my time with me. And that's the time I just make sure I'm not getting involved anyone. No family, no parent, no, absolutely no one. So you don't need to do 1 hour. Sometimes you can do only 15 minutes and increase to 30 minutes. But all I'm trying to say is this is the simple exercise where in the morning you give yourself 30 minutes and say, hey, this is me, my time, me time.
Yeah.
And in me time, all I'm going to do is I'm going to let the noise go away.
That is really super important advice. And I love the way that you explained that. I had no idea that a lotus was so resilient. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, so building a supportive community is really important. What's one thing that you would hope readers will take away from the true self?
The joy they're seeking is within them. The light they're searching is within them. So for me, one thing is everyone is interested in happiness. Everyone's seeking joy and happiness. But the one thing this true self will say is, if you're seeking this outside, sorry, it's going to be a mirage. So you got to look inside. Everything is already within you. So that's one thing this true self will um, help the audience, help the individual, help the community is look inwards. Everything you're seeking is already within you, and you're full of abundance, and you are here for a reason.
That
And have faith, and that's it. The potential of an individual. Wow. For me, this is what I can say. We're all in a finite body, but we have infinite energy. We have infinite potential. And that's what this true self is all about.
now that yeah, that's incredibly hopeful, and it's very powerful because I think that today we're living in this culture that does just get wrapped up in the busyness of everything going around. And it's hard for people to see that light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. So thank you for bringing such a powerful and hopeful message for one. That has been incredibly insightful. Is there anything else from your personal journey or wisdom that you would share with others on just a few other tips of how they can cultivate self-awareness aside from meditation and journaling, of course, because we did talk about those two things.
Uh, Meditation is not for everyone. I understand that. But one simple other technique I can share is this breathing.
Oh,
So a lot of times people underestimate why they're alive.
yeah.
So all I say is the self-awareness is all about this. Next time, watch when you breathe in and breathe out. That's it. You're already in mindfulness. You're already in self-awareness. So the moment you start breathing deep and breathe out longer, little longer, already your heartbeat goes to normal and you're already feeling peaceful, pleasant. So for me, this is another simple technique. You don't need to go to the doctor. You don't need to read 10 books.
Right.
It's like, you're sitting in the train, you're commuting, or you're stuck in the traffic. All you need to do is simply this. Okay, instead of thinking, I can't believe the traffic, it's out of your control. Instead, okay, yeah, it's really annoying me. What can I do? Oh, I'll take a deep breath in. And that's it. It seems so silly. That's why no one does it.
Yeah, I can attest to the power of breathing and those exercises because I use it in hypnotherapy, and that's the first
Yeah,
thing that I ask clients to do is a short little exercise because they come before they come to see me. And it
yeah.
really does help. So for anybody that's listening that doubts that, they should just give it a try. Well, thank
Well, see,
you.
yeah. So it's a lot of things we are looking for are simple things, but we just simply need to practice them and have faith in those, small activities. And once it becomes a behavior, you don't even need to think about it. It just becomes part of your life. So for me, it just becomes naturally that, whenever I'm facing something, let's say I need to deal with, naturally I take a deep breathe in and out. And it's good that you are already sharing that in the hypnotherapy. It's kind of like, yeah, if you're already seeing the results, it just says that it's one of the most basic things we all do, whether we
Yeah,
during sleep and also awake. And the power of that is just, for me, incredible.
I agree. So, if anybody that may want to get in touch with you and ask you a few more questions about what we've covered today, where can they find you?
Well, my book is in Amazon, uh, Barnes Noble, pretty much everywhere. Simply need to search on Google. And I'm pretty active on social media. Yeah, pretty much I post every single day a simple message where we can bring into our life. So people can contact me on social media, or people can contact me through you. People can contact me through my the Amazon link itself, the book link itself.
Thank you. And I will make sure to include all of the information from today's episode in the description um, through YouTube. So they will be able to reference that as well. But I really just appreciate you being willing to share some of your time with me today and your incredible story. I think that it's truly inspiring, and we need more individuals today to really try to give self-awareness a little bit more credit and more of a chance.
Personally, I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity. And for me, I want to say one thing, you're really courageous in what you're doing. And I truly appreciate the opportunity to be on this podcast. And also, you're making so much change to a lot of people who are looking for that light, who are looking for that guidance, and who are looking for coming, yeah, as you said, the darkness, the tunnel. And that's where I feel like, there's like-minded individuals across the planet doing in their own way. We're the small ripples, but the ripples are reaching
Yeah,
onto the other side of the planet.
that's the exciting part.
Yeah. So I'm incredibly fortunate to be on this podcast today with you. And I do personally feel you are a courageous individual, doing what you're doing every day,
Thank you.
right? Personally and professionally. And also, this is my message for your audience is a lot of times people ask for true self. The true self is nothing but the pure intent of what we do every day.
Yes.
That comes naturally. And, I see in your journey. And that's why I'm so incredibly happy to be on your podcast. And once again, thank you for having me, and thank you for having this conversation, because it comes naturally. A lot of things, um, unless you are in a flow and aligned, you cannot really say some of the things I said.
Right. That is so true. And thank you. I really appreciate your kindness, your openness to share, because that's also incredibly courageous. So I love what you're doing. And I really hope that you continue to inspire more and more people the more who read your book. So I really am grateful to have you on the podcast today as well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sabrina.
We will have to make sure to keep in touch, Loki. We can do an update in a little while from now, 6 months, maybe a year.
No, no, absolutely. I think one of the things I'm really working on is I'm working on my second book, and the
Oh, that's exciting.
second book will come most likely later this year. And the second book is all about faith, faith in ourselves, the power of acceptance, and the power of surrender. Because uh, after looking at the true self, I also asked myself, why is it really difficult for individuals and communities to go in that path? One of the biggest challenges I have noticed is people are scared to surrender. People are scared to accept the way things are. And so that's where I'm focusing. To surrender, to accept, you need to have some level of faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if the faith is missing, you keep challenging, you keep, you know, you you're just thinking from a scientific mind rather than spiritual mind. So
Yeah.
this is where I feel like a lot of people are struggling, is because they just want to think from their head and not see there is something beyond the head.
Yeah. It's
So
it's
that's
brains.
yeah. So
Natural.
that's so that's what I'm focusing on. But no, definitely I would like to, see your journey, and when this final, after the edits and all those things, whenever this comes out.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you.